Today is the fourth night. We are speaking on the Digha Nikaya. Tonight is the 19th of July, 2011, and we come to Digha Nikaya Sutta number 4, Sonadanda Sutta, about Sonadanda, qualities of a true Brahmin. This sutta is about the qualities of a true Brahmin. Thus have I heard. Once the Lord was travelling among the Angas with a large company of some 500 monks, and he arrived at Champa. At Champa, he stayed by Gagara's lotus pond. At that time, the Brahmin Sonadanda was living at Champa, a populous place full of grass, timber, water, and corn, which had been given to him by King Senia Bimbisara of Magadha as a royal gift and with royal powers. And the Brahmins and householders of Champa heard say, the ascetic Gotama of the Sakyans, who has gone forth from the Sakyan clan, is travelling among the Angas, and is staying at Gagara's lotus pool. And concerning that blessed Lord Gotama, a good report has been spread about. This blessed Lord is an Arahant, Sammasambuddha, perfected in knowledge and conduct, a well-farer, knower of the worlds, unequaled trainer of men to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, a Buddha, a blessed Lord. He proclaims this world with its gods, Maras, Brahmas, the world of ascetics and Brahmins with its princes and people, having come to know it by his own knowledge. He teaches a Dhamma that is lovely in its beginning, lovely in its middle, and lovely in its ending, in the spirit and in the letter. And he displays the fully perfected, thoroughly purified holy life. And indeed, it is good to see such Arahants. Thereupon the Brahmins and householders of Champa, leaving Champa in great crowds, in vast numbers, went to Gagara's lotus pond. Just then the Brahmin Sonadanda had gone up to his veranda for his midday rest. Seeing all the Brahmins and householders making for Gagara's lotus pond, he asked his steward the reason. And the steward said, Sir, it is the ascetic Gotama of the Sakyans, etc. That is why they are going to see him. And Sonadanda said, Well then, steward, go to the Brahmins and householders of Champa and say to them, Please wait, gentlemen. The Brahmin Sonadanda will come to see the ascetic Gotama. And the steward conveyed this message to the Brahmins and householders of Champa. Now at that time, some 500 Brahmins from various provinces were in Champa on some business, and they heard that Sonadanda intended to visit the ascetic Gotama. So they called upon him and asked if this was true. So it is, gentlemen, I am going to visit the ascetic Gotama, he said. And they said, Sir, do not visit the ascetic Gotama. It is not fitting that you should do so. If the Reverend Sonadanda goes to visit the ascetic Gotama, his reputation will decrease, and that of the ascetic Gotama will increase. This being so, it is not right that the Reverend Sonadanda should visit the ascetic Gotama, but rather the ascetic Gotama should visit him. The Reverend Sonadanda is well born on both the mother's and the father's side, of pure descent to the 7th generation, unbroken, of irreproachable birth, and therefore he should not call on the ascetic Gotama, but rather the ascetic Gotama should call on him. The Reverend Sonadanda is possessed of great wealth and resources. The Reverend Sonadanda is a scholar, versed in the mantras, accomplished in the 3 Vedas, a skilled expounder of the rules and rituals, and the law of sounds and meanings, and fifthly, oral tradition, an expounder, fully versed in natural philosophy and the marks of a great man. The Reverend Sonadanda is handsome, good-looking, pleasing, of the most beautiful complexion, in form and countenance like Brahma, of no mean appearance. He is virtuous, of increasing virtue, endowed with increasing virtue. He is well-spoken, of pleasing address, polite, of pure and clear enunciation, speaking to the point. He is the teacher's teacher of many, teaching the mantras to 300 youths. And many young men come from different districts and regions, seeking to learn the mantras in his presence, desirous to learn them from him. He is aged, grown old, venerable, advanced in years, long past his youth. whereas the ascetic Gotama is youthful and newly gone forth as a wanderer. The Reverend Sonadanda is esteemed, made much of, honored, revered, worshipped by King Senior Bimbisara and by the Brahmin Pokrasati. He lives at Champa, a populous place, full of grass, timber, water and corn, which has been given to him by King Senior Bimbisara of Magadha as a royal gift and with royal powers. This being so, it is not proper that he should visit the ascetic Gotama, but rather the ascetic Gotama should visit him. Stop here for a moment. You see, as usual, these Brahmins, during the Buddha's time, they looked down on all other castes. So they thought it was below the dignity of this Reverend Sonananda. He calls him Reverend because he was very old and very well known. So somebody who was revered. So these Brahmins told him not to go and see the Buddha Gautama because he's not of their clan. At this, Sonadanda replied, "Now listen, gentlemen, as to why it is fitting for us to visit the Reverend Gautama and why it is not fitting for him to visit us. The ascetic Gautama is well born on both sides, of pure descent to the 7th generation, unbroken, of irreproachable birth. Therefore it is fitting for us to visit him. He went forth, leaving a great body of kinsmen. In fact, he gave up much gold and wealth to go forth, both hidden away and openly displayed. The ascetic Gautama, while youthful, a black-haired youth, in the prime of his young days, in the first stage of life, went forth from the household life into homelessness, leaving his grieving parents weeping with tear-stained faces. Having cut off his hair and beard and put on yellow robes, he went forth into homelessness. He is handsome, virtuous, well-spoken, the teacher's teacher of many. He has abandoned sensuality and dispelled vanity. He teaches action or karma and the results of action, honoring the blameless Brahmana way of life. He is a wanderer of high birth, of a leading Katya family. He is a wanderer from a wealthy family, of great wealth and possessions. People come to consult him from foreign kingdoms and foreign lands. Many thousands of devas have taken refuge with him. This good report has been spread about him. This blessed Lord is an Arahant, Sammasambuddha, perfected in knowledge and conduct, etc. He bears the 32 marks of a great man. He is welcoming, kindly of speech, courteous, genial, clear and ready of speech. He is attended by 4 assemblies, revered, honored, esteemed and worshipped by them. Many devas and humans are devoted to him. Whenever he stays in any town or village, that place is not troubled by non-human beings. He has a crowd, a multitude of followers, is a teacher of many. He is consulted by the chief of the various leaders of sects. It is not the way with the ascetic Gautama's reputation as it is with that of some ascetics and Brahmins, about whom this or that is reported. The ascetic Gautama's fame is based on his achievement of unsurpassed wisdom and conduct. Indeed, King Senior Bimbisara of Magadha has gone for refuge to him, together with his son, his wife, his followers and his ministers. So have King Pasenadi of Kosala and the Brahmin Pokrasati. He is revered, honored, esteemed and worshipped by them. The ascetic Gautama has arrived in Champa and is staying by Gagara's lotus pond, and whatever ascetics and Brahmins come to our territory are our guests, and we should revere, honor, esteem and worship guests. Having come to Gagara's lotus pond, the ascetic Gautama is such a guest and should be treated as such. Therefore, it is not proper that he should come to us, but rather we should go to him. However much I might praise the ascetic Gautama, that praise is insufficient. He is beyond all praise. On hearing this, the Brahmin said to Sonadanda, "Sir, since you praise the ascetic Gautama so much, then even if he were to live 100 yojanas from here, it would be fitting for a believing clansman to go with a shoulder bag to visit him. And so, sir, we shall all go to visit the ascetic Gautama." And so Sonadanda went with a large company of Brahmins to Gagara's lotus pond. Stop here for a moment. A yojana is sometimes translated as a league, and it's supposed to be about 10 kilometers. 1 yojana is 10 kilometers. So 100 yojanas is 1,000 kilometers. So they say even if he were 1,000 kilometers away, we should walk with the shoulder back to visit him. But when Sonadanda had traversed the jungle thickets, he thought, if I ask the ascetic Gautama a question, he might say to me, that Brahmin is not a fitting question. It is not at all a fitting question. And then the company might despise me, saying, Sonadanda is a fool, he has no sense. He can't put a proper question to the ascetic Gautama. And if anyone were despised by this company, his reputation would suffer, and then his income would suffer, for our income depends on the gaining of a reputation. Or if the ascetic Gautama were to ask me a question, my answer might not satisfy him, and he might say, that is not the right way to answer this question. And then the company might despise me. And if, having come into the presence of the ascetic Gautama, I were to turn away without showing myself, this company might despise me. Then Sonadanda approached the Lord, exchanged courtesies with him, and sat down to one side. Some of the Brahmins and householders made obeisance to the Lord. Some exchanged courtesies with him. Some saluted him with joined palms. Some announced their name and clan. And some sat down to one side in silence. So Sonadanda took his seat with many thoughts going through his mind. If I ask the ascetic Gautama a question, he might say to me, that Brahmin is not a fitting question, etc. If only the ascetic Gautama would ask me a question from my own field of the three Vedas, then I could give him an answer that would satisfy him. And the Lord, reading his mind, thought, this Sonadanda is worried. Suppose I were to ask him a question from his own field as a teacher of the three Vedas. So he said to Sonadanda, by how many qualities do Brahmins recognize a Brahmin? How would one declare truthfully and without falling into falsehood, I am a Brahmin? Then Sonadanda thought, now what I wanted, hoped for, desired and longed for has happened. Now I can give him an answer that will satisfy him. Straightening up and looking round the assembly, he said, Reverend Gautama, there are 5 such qualities. What are they? A Brahmin is well born on both the mother's and the father's side, of pure descent to the 7th generation. He is a scholar versed in the mantras. He is handsome, pleasing. He is virtuous. He is learned and wise, and is the first or second to hold the sacrificial ladle. These are the 5 qualities of a true Brahmin. But if one of these qualities were omitted, could not one be recognized as a true Brahmin, being possessed of 4 of these qualities? And he said, it is possible, Gautama. We could leave out appearance, for what does that matter? If a Brahmin had the other 4 qualities, he could be recognized as a true Brahmin. And the Buddha said, but could not one of these 4 qualities be omitted, leaving 3 whereby one could be recognized as a true Brahmin? And he said, it is possible, Gautama. We could leave out the mantras, for what do they matter? If he had the other 3 qualities, he could be recognized as a true Brahmin. And then the Buddha said, but could not one of these 3 qualities be omitted? And he said, it is possible, Gautama. We could leave out birth, for what does that matter? If a Brahmin is virtuous, of increasing virtue, and if he is learned and wise, and is the first or second to hold the sacrificial ladle, then he can be recognized as a true Brahmin, and truthfully claim to be so. At this the Brahmin said to Sonadanda, don't say that, Sonadanda, don't say it. The Reverend Sonadanda is decrying appearance, the mantras and birth. He is actually adopting the ascetic Gautama's own words. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is leading him to delete one by one of these things. And he left out appearance. It doesn't matter if a Brahmin is handsome or not. He said it's not so important. Then secondly, he left out the mantras. And thirdly, he left out the birth, which to a Brahmin is very important, the Brahmin birth. So all the Brahmins got annoyed, saying, you are saying exactly what he wants you to say. You are saying his own words. Then the Lord said to the Brahmins, if you think the Brahmin Sonadanda is not concentrating on his task, is using wrong words, is lacking in wisdom, and is not fit to converse with the ascetic Gotama. Let him cease, and you talk to me. But if you think he is learned, speaks properly, is wise, and fit to converse with the ascetic Gotama, then you cease and let him speak. Then Sonadanda said to the Lord, let that be, Reverend Gotama, and be silent. I will answer in this matter. So he said, let me handle the Brahmins. To the Brahmins he said, do not say the Reverend Sonadanda is decrying appearance and adopting the ascetic Gotama's own words. I do not decry appearance, mantras or birth. Now at that time, Sonadanda's nephew, a young man called Angaka, was sitting in the assembly, and Sonadanda said, Gentlemen, do you see my nephew Angaka? Yes, sir. Angaka is handsome, good-looking, pleasing, of supremely fair complexion, in form and countenance like Brahma, of no mean appearance, and there is none in this assembly his equal except the ascetic Gotama. He is a scholar. I was his mantra teacher. He is well born on both sides. I know his parents. But if Angaka were to take life, take what is not given, commit adultery, tell lies, and drink strong drink, what would good looks or mantras or birth profit him? But it is because a Brahmin is virtuous, because he is wise, on account of these 2 points that he can truthfully declare, I am a Brahmin. And the Buddha said, but Brahmin, if one were to omit one of these 2 points, could one truthfully declare, I am a Brahmin? And he said, no, Gotama, for wisdom is purified by morality, and morality is purified by wisdom. Where one is, the other is. The moral man has wisdom, and the wise man has morality. And the combination of morality and wisdom is called the highest thing in the world. Just as one hand washes the other, or one foot the other, so wisdom is purified by morality, and this combination is called the highest thing in the world. Stop here for a moment. So you see this Sonadanda, people they respect him for a good reason. He's quite a smart guy. He can answer in this way. And the Buddha said, so it is, Brahmin. Wisdom is purified by morality, and morality is purified by wisdom. Where one is, the other is. The moral man has wisdom, and the wise man has morality, and the combination of morality and wisdom is called the highest thing in the world. But Brahmin, what is this morality and what is this wisdom? And he said, we only know this much, Gotama. It would be well if the Reverend Gotama were to explain the meaning of this. So he admits that he can only say so much. He cannot explain in detail what is this morality and this wisdom. And the Buddha said, then listen, Brahmin, pay proper attention and I will tell you. Yes, sir, said Sonadanda in reply. And the Lord said, Brahmin, Tathagata arises in this world, and Arahant, Sammasambuddha, endowed with wisdom and conduct, well-farer, knower of the worlds, incomparable trainer of men to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, enlightened and blessed. He, having realized it by his own super-knowledge, proclaims this world with its devas, maras and brahmas, its princes and people. He preaches the Dhamma, which is lovely in its beginning, lovely in its middle, lovely in its ending, in the spirit and in the letter, and displays the fully perfected and purified holy life. A disciple goes forth and practices the moralities, etc. These are all described in Sutta number 2, which we went through. He guards the sense doors, etc. This is the list of all the practice in the holy life, or the conduct in the holy life, called charana. That Brahmin is morality. He attains the 4 jhanas. He attains various insights and the cessation of the asavas. Thus he develops wisdom. These the various insights. Refers to vijja. The other day we went through the suttas. We saw there were 8 sections in the this knowledge, under knowledge, vijja. That Brahmin is wisdom. So here we are not reading because you all can refer to that sutta number 2. The long list of charana and vijja, conduct and knowledge. At these words, Sonadanda said, Excellent Lord, excellent. It is as if someone were to set up what had been knocked down, or to point out the way to one who got lost, or to bring an oil lamp into a dark place, so that those with eyes could see what was there. Just so, the Blessed Lord has expounded the Dhamma in various ways, and I go for refuge to the Blessed Lord Gautama, to the Dhamma and to the Sangha. May the Reverend Gautama accept me from this day forth as a lay follower as long as life shall last. And may the Reverend Gautama and his order of monks accept a meal from me tomorrow. The Lord assented by silence. Then Sonadanda, seeing his assent, rose, saluted the Lord, passed by to his right, and departed. As day was breaking, he caused hard and soft food to be prepared in his own home, and when it was ready, he announced, Reverend Gautama, it is time, the meal is ready. And the Lord, having risen early, went with robe and bowl, and attended by his monks, to Sonadanda's residence, and sat down on the prepared seat. And Sonadanda served the Buddha and his monks with the finest foods with his own hands until they were satisfied. And when the Lord had eaten and taken his hand away from the bowl, Sonadanda took a low stool and sat down to one side. Then he said to the Lord, Reverend Gautama, if when I have gone into the assembly, I were to rise and salute the Lord, the company would despise me. In that case, my reputation would suffer. And if a man's reputation suffers, his income suffers. So if, on entering the assembly, I should join my palms in greeting, may the Reverend Gautama take it as if I had risen from my seat. And if on entering the assembly I should take off my turban, may you take it as if I had bowed at your feet. Or if when riding in my carriage I were to alight to salute the Lord, the company would despise me. So if when I am riding in my carriage I raise my goat, may you take it as if I had alighted from my carriage. And if I lower my hand, may you take it as if I had bowed my head at your feet. Then the Lord, having instructed Sonadanda with a talk on Dhamma, inspired him, fired him with enthusiasm, and delighted him, rose from his seat and departed. That's the end of the sutta. So you see, this Sonadanda still has a lot of pride. He doesn't want to show so much respect to the Buddha because the other Brahmins would despise him. Then in which case his income would suffer. This happens with a lot of people who are new to the Buddha Sasana, who are new to the Buddhist religion. They find it very difficult to bow to a monk. A lot of people are like that. And then after they learn the Dhamma more, then they appreciate the Dhamma enough to willingly bow to monks. So it's a matter of progression, and it takes time for a person to progress on the spiritual path. So you see this Buddha, to recapitulate, the Buddha asked him the qualities of a Brahmin, and he talked about the 5 qualities. One is to be of pure descent. That means a Brahmin for 7 generations. 7 generations on the father and the mother side. Both sides also pure Brahmins. That's number 1. Secondly, possess of great wealth and resources. Okay, paragraph 13. One is well born on the mother and father side, of pure descent for 7 generations. Number 2 is a scholar versed in the mantras. Number 3 is handsome and pleasing. Number 4 is virtuous. Number 5 is learned and wise, so that he's the first or second to hold the sacrificial ladle. So when the Buddha asked him to reduce his qualities, to see what is the real, the essential qualities to be a Brahmin, he started reducing one by one until he came to 2. That is morality and wisdom. And actually this morality and wisdom is actually the holy path itself. When you practice the holy path, the charana, the conduct or practice of the holy path is basically morality. And then the result of it is vijja. Vijja is the knowledge that arises from conduct, that arises from the practice of the holy life. So the wisdom is the end result. But there are very many levels. So all these are described. So basically, he's talking about the spiritual path and its result, but he cannot explain in detail because he has not attained all these levels. So the Buddha described in detail. Then he was so impressed, became a disciple of the Buddha. And then later he told the Buddha that his reputation would suffer if he were to show too much respect to the Buddha. So he said, if I do this, then you take it that I do that.